Okay, so how about the next one? Wow, that should be
Provision 5 servers in those 5 servers.
SaaS.
What is SaaS?
5 servers with Windows Server 2016 installed. So you
Platform,
have
platform.
already
Platform as a
installed
service.
with the operating
No?
system.
Platform.
What type of service would allow you to provision 5 servers with servers?
5 include the hardware?
2007.
Include the, if it's including everything, it's infrastructure as a service.
Infrastructure as a service, I think.
Now we
It's
mentioned
confusing.
about 3 terms: infrastructure as a service,
Yeah.
platform as a service, software as a service. Which one? Choose.
Infrastructure.
Well, now the servers, no. An
Software
infrastructure,
is
is it?
installing 5 Windows servers.
It says it would allow you to provision 5
Infrastructure.
servers.
It's infrastructure.
So what is software?
Now infrastructure is us. That's the ISP.
Software, remember we have,
Oh.
if I am the service provider and you're the customer,
Platform as a
you
service.
pay for me, you ask me to provide you the memory and the CPU, and that's it.
That's right.
How you call it?
What's it?
You would like to install the operating system, you would like to install the SQL Server by yourself. But I'm just providing you the hardware. That will be infrastructure as a service. So now, the second time, the second customer comes to me, pay me the money, and he asks me not only provide the CPU, the hardware, but also install the operating system for him. How you call this? All right.
Is it a platform? Yeah.
Yep.
The service is a platform.
Operating, including
Yeah.
the operating
Yeah, that's
system.
right,
That is the platform. So if you ask me to not only install the operating system, but also install with the SQL Server,
But then that's this
that would be
the software.
software.
As a service, yeah, because and that includes them all.
Yeah, right.
So if I
this
sign
one
up
would
for
like-
software for a service,
Yes.
I have to have the others. I don't just say, I just want software as a service.
Of course.
You're not going to get infrastructure or the platform.
Right.
Then it doesn't run.
It doesn't work.
Right. So my first answer, SaaS. That's how I remember it.
All right.
So
you
one
like to select-
second, actually, because infrastructure including hardware, memory, everything. But why you're not saying platform? This one.
No, because the platform is just the operating system,
But
Platform
here it is
including
an
the
operating system.
including the operating system. Yeah, but this person has said to you, I want 5 servers. So I can't just give someone 5 servers. Okay, so I'll give you 5 servers in that building over there. Log into it. Log into it. You don't have infrastructure. You don't have a platform. I have to have both of those before I can make it to that. So when someone comes to you and says, I want 5 servers, without those other 2 pieces, you've got nothing. It's just a thing sitting over there that no one can access. So you'll need them all. So you've got to read I think you've got to read the question very carefully as well.
Right.
Because it says here, allows you to
Windows Server
provision 5
2016.
servers. That's just the end part there where it says with Windows Server 2016 installed. That probably just makes you think, oh, that's a platform. That's an operating system, it's a platform. And he wants 5 servers. Well, the server's not going to be hosted at the customer's premise. It's going to be hosted somewhere else. So we'll need the infrastructure as well. So you need the infrastructure, platform, and the server. So then it's software. Service.
Yeah, that's your thinking. Yeah.
That's the way I'm
you are very good about how to analyze that answer. Yes, that's good. So the Oscar goes to
Software as a service. I think so.
Yeah, well, that's
Software as a service?
It's probably
Yeah.
so funny.
software as a service. You still insist software as a service?
Well, I don't know, but the other one's
No,
fine.
no, 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 no.
Come on,
no,
Shane.
Okay. Now,
I get it from-
which type of service, would allow you to provision 5 servers? Which means I need to provide you the CPU,
Yeah.
the memory,
Yeah.
and probably the network card, right?
Yeah.
And
And
then
operation.
on top of it, you still ask me for the server. So
Yeah.
I need to install the server. I'm the service provider.
Yeah.
So you have the hardware. You now ask me for also installing the software. The software is the operating system, not SQL, right? So there is no SQL. There is no application on top of it. So we have three choices. If you have hardware only, that will be infrastructure service. If you have hardware and operating system, then that will be platform as a service.
Yes. But then
If you have hardware, operating system, and also the application, that
Yeah.
will be the software.
Yeah.
So this is platform as a service. This one.
Right. So the answer goes to
PaaS.
let's take a right.
See, Shane. You told me
I
it's
went to
on.
the next level.
Because
No
if they
problem.
said if they said Dropbox, I need 5 Dropbox.
Oh yeah, because then it's software.
Yeah, because it's platform.
Okay, so the first two steps, right?
Hardware and what did you say?
So
Hardware and
infrastructure,
Operating system.
platform. I need to provision 5 servers, so that doesn't say what the servers are. So it's not like servers running an Oracle database of Apache
Yeah.
or something.
Dropbox or something like that.
How about next one? Oh,
What are the 2 characteristics of a data center underlay networks? Underlay. Spine network device
Spine
redundancy.
leaf, is it?
Yeah,
1
spine.
and 2.
1 and 2, fast fail.
One,
Oh,
spine
two
network device
characteristics.
redundancy.
Okay, yeah.
2, fast failover. 3, unpredictable latency between leaf
Yeah,
device.
yeah.
Definitely not, right?
No, you
Yeah.
don't want that.
Okay.
Ah.
Multiple ISP.
Multiple ISP.
No, that's not
MPBGP that is.
characteristic of a data center.
So first two.
Please read the question again.
What are 2 characteristics
Of-
a data center?
So what's the
Underlay
key?
network. So
The key is the underlay,
Yeah, which is the least spine infrastructure.
right? So
First 2, 1 and 2.
1 and 2, agree?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I like that unpredictable latency between leaf device. That sounds good. Sign me up.
Can we do group exams? You'll pass.
Check the next one. Wow.
What are 2 concepts of a private cloud?
Private cloud.
Yeah, it should be easy, right?
That's not the first 2.
Resources are not secured by firewall.
So it's not the first 2.
Non-critical
3
resources.
and 4.
3 and 4?
Yeah.
Agree?
Yeah.
Resources are dedicated to your organization. Resources are accessed through a private
Right.
connection. Okay, you see? Next one. According to Juniper Networks, what is the recommended external routing protocol for the underlay network?
Wow. What is? How come they can say also? It can be any interior gateway protocol.
BGP.
But what about BGP?
It can even have the OSPF, isn't it?
No, that's just
It says
So what's the
external.
key?
Oh, external routing.
external.
External,
But it's
right?
yeah.
The BGP, yeah, obviously.
What are 3 software suites that contribute to the cloud architecture?
OpenStack.
Yeah, there's one.
And
Sphere.
This is tough. Okay, OpenStack.
It's not going to be Ubuntu because it's just an operating system.
what is Kubernetes? I don't know that.
I don't know what vSphere is. We
Sphere
talk
is
about
the VMware product.
vSphere, VirtualBox.
Oh well, then that could be that's one. That was it was at VMware's, wasn't it? We talked about that yesterday, was it?
VirtualBox is the third.
Yeah, but no, but VirtualBox is.
That's
What's this? Kubernetes.
Kubernetes. Now we didn't mention about it.
No.
Kubernetes is okay. Hold on. Kubernetes is something we didn't mention about in the class. However, it is in the other chapters in the ZCF. So if you read through the
Oh, the
ZCF, you will be able
virtual
to.
home.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But Kubernetes is. If I say that, I'm giving you the answer. So let me hold on. So one more.
Well, I'm not going to say Ubuntu because it's Linux, so I can take that off the list. It's
So
just an operating system.
all right. So
I don't know what Kubernetes is,
Kubernetes.
so I'll have to just
But somebody, you might want to try VirtualBox. Am I right?
that's
Yeah,
also
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of,
You could, yeah.
VirtualBox is what? Virtualization. So just use Kubernetes.
Yeah. One is VirtualBox. By the way.
Hypervisor.
It's kind of it's
Very
Kind of
similar to
VMware, but
Yeah. I've tried VirtualBox a
Oracle
long time
product.
ago, but it wasn't right.
Oracle product like VMware. You can
it's an
install
Oracle
virtual
product.
machines.
It's an
Yeah.
Oracle software, very similar to the VMware workstation.
Yeah. So like a long time ago, to try and run sort of Windows stuff in other operating systems, VirtualBox was one of the ones you could use.
Good. Now, it's very similar to the VMware workstation, right?
It is,
So
yeah.
please read through the question again.
What are the three software suites that contribute to cloud architecture? Well, that's not going to be
What is
VirtualBox,
the keyword?
unless VirtualBox it contributes to software
Cloud
Cloud.
architecture.
Yeah, the keyword is
So
the
unless
cloud.
VirtualBox has become something integrated in cloud in the last decade that I don't know about, I can't say VirtualBox.
No, but VirtualBox is mostly
More
for
like
individual
your
workstation.
That is, that's right, yeah, so I'm not going to say VirtualBox.
So
To me,
Kubernetes.
VirtualBox is like an emulator, that's all it is.
Kubernetes. What is Kubernetes?
I don't know
Alright,
what Kubernetes
let's
is.
take a look.
Yeah.
So the way I do that is process of elimination,
Yeah, exactly.
because I don't know what Kubernetes is. I know Ubuntu's an operating system 100%. VirtualBox to me is just an emulator to run. It's like virtual machines, that's it. Like you say, oh, I'm going to install Windows 95 in VirtualBox.
Correct. What information does an underlay network use to route data? Morning.
Sorry.
No problem. No problem. We are taking the exam.
Exam.
It's a practice exam, don't worry. Yeah.
Okay.
Just showing them the practice exam for the JNCIA club.
Oh, okay.
IP address?
Well, the other one, I don't know.
Agree?
Yeah, I don't know how you use a customer name to route data, or a customer ID, or an application name.
Sometimes when I'm doing the test, the less I know, the easier to answer the question.
That's right, yeah, because you sit there and go, well, I don't know, you look at your routing table and I see just Shane. Like, you know, all these IP addresses and stuff, Shane. Oh, hang on.
Okay, goes to
Hold on. What does an underlay network use? What does information IP address? Because BGP is running in underlay, so it should be what IP address.
right. Okay, next
And if it asks for overlay, then I worry about VXLAN or MPBGP.
Just answer the question somehow. You don't have to go beyond.
The customer wants to deploy a website that can scale as needed. Which type of service should the customer purchase in this scenario?
Just want to deploy a website that can scale.
Well, not
Is it
if
scale
I-
out or scale up?
Software as a service.
Scale. What is scale out or scale up?
There's not going to be a firewall.
Again, you are go beyond that question.
Software as a service.
Software as a service.
That's the only thing I'd select.
Right? Okay, by the way, I also mentioned about something as a service, right? So which part of the component in your Contrail providing the BGP as a service?
BGP as a service.
That's the project, the orchestration, BGP.
Did he explain?
Very close but not.
MPBGP.
If I'm talking about the HP server,
Yeah.
there is a hypervisor.
Yeah.
Something over there providing the BGP service.
The virtual router?
Virtual router, yes. So the virtual router providing the BGP to connect to another router to learn the routes. So we say that is BGP as a service, all right? But in here, let's stepping back. The question is asking for the customer want to purchase some kind of software from the service provider. So the service provider say, okay, I would like to give you the hardware, but not only the hardware, but also the operating system. Oh, you want to have a web, right? So you have on top of it with the software. So software as a service.
So are you showing us the easy questions just to make us tempt to take the exam?
Actually,
What
the
else?
actual question is a little bit harder than this. Yeah, but you can have a look. What will be the exam looks like?
Again, it's JNCIA, so just the entry one.
Yes,
For
that's the
cloud,
entry
not
level.
cloud.
Yeah, for cloud.
Okay, one. Then we can start the class.
Two and three?
Number four.
2 and 3, isn't it?
2 and 3
Number
or
four
2
is
and
correct.
4.
Number 4 is correct.
A private cloud cannot connect to a public cloud. Why not?
Yeah, you can.
You can, but you just want it to be, you know.
That is called hybrid, isn't it?
Of course you can.
I think 2 and 3.
2 and 3, I think.
3 and 4.
Okay, 2 and
Okay,
4,
select
2
3.
and 3. Okay, so everybody agree with 2, right?
Yeah.
No,
But
it's a
some
3
of-
and
Well,
4.
actually, well, because how do you connect to a private cloud? You have to connect to a direct. It's not like it's connected directly.
Okay, I think he has the issue with whether the private cloud can be deployed in the service provider network.
Yeah.
So do you think, can we have a private cloud in the public cloud?
Yes.
We can dedicate the resources for one customer and not be.
Can we?
shared.
Okay, let's take a try. A private cloud can be deployed in a service provider network. The answer is correct. So remember, when I introduce you the Amazon Web Server, how you call the service?
Amazon is a private cloud.
Virtual
Amazon is
private
public.
cloud.
Yeah.
Amazon itself is a public cloud,
Yes.
but you implement your service in the Amazon and only dedicated by yourself to access. So that is a virtual private cloud. So yes, you can implement the private cloud in the public cloud. No problem. Okay.
I'll give you the exam voucher.
Oh, no stress.
Can I go to the US, George?
Go one
It's
line.
a virtual private.
George, can I go to the
Yes,
US?
virtual private. In Amazon, we call it VPC.
So now saying is.
No.
It is
It is tough.
And he wants to use the infrastructure.
Country.
Service
We're not
provider.
talking about the country here.
No.
But he doesn't want any other customer to be using the same hardware.
Right. Using their resource.
Yeah.
Yes, so the resource will be dedicated for this customer only.
So what is that one for?
That is
And you
virtual
like
private.
it.
That is still virtual private.
-1.
Yeah.
But if
-1.
you freeze up the data center internally in your organization,
My little thermometer that I've got outside.
you can internally access by using your internal network or
it's just
access from external by using VPN.
Really.
Then you call it private cloud. Because you own the resource in your organization.
Bless you.
All right, thanks. Okay, good morning everyone. So today we are going to move on to the next course, NACC. The NACC stands for Network Automation using Contrail Cloud. So before we started the class, let's focus in here. Contrail Cloud. In Juniper, we have 3 solutions to provide the service. One is Open Contrail. You don't have to pay. Second, you only purchase Contrail itself. We call it Contrail networking. 3, you not only purchase the Contrail, but also purchasing the OpenStack from Juniper. So we provide full coverage of the service. We call it Contrail Cloud. So in this case, in this training, we are going to cover both of the OpenStack and Contrail altogether, right? So we call it Contrail. And let's move on to the agenda. Since this is a customized training, so we will deliver only part of the chapters, including chapter 1, chapter 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That will be in your volume 1 of the coursework. You have 3 volumes of the student guide, right? And volume 1 it will covering the chapter 1 to chapter 7. And then we will skip the volume 2 and then jump into the volume 3, starting with the Contrail monitoring and analytics, which is chapter 12 until the end. 12, 13, 14, and 15. All right. So that is by the request from somebody in your organization. I don't know because we received that agenda and we just followed it. Right. So chapter 1 we finished. Now let's move on to chapter 2. Chapter 2 is actually easy because we have already covered that in yesterday. SDN, NFV, and Contrail. So I'm going to move on fast. In this chapter, we are going to explain the definition and main purpose of the SDN. What is NFV? And there is another term very similar to the NFV. We call it VNF. And then explain the role of the Contrail SDN controller and list available control solutions. Okay, here's the review. Traditional network, not easy to manage, right? So modern network, we would like to easier manage it. So we would like to centralize the control plane. And then we want to automation in order to do the mass deployment. So we need to learn about the software, about the coding, so we can scale. So we would like to use the some of the concept in the new network. For example, we want to scale. We want to provide a multi-tenant, and we want to analytics, telemetry. What is telemetry? Which means we can remotely look into the virtual machine, into the network virtual machine card, and to see what's the traffic inside of the virtual machine. So which means I remotely use some kind of the software to parse that information. So I can know whether the CPU utilization or the bandwidth utilization exceed my threshold. So I can scale out. Okay.
It's like telepathy, yeah? Telepathy, telemetry.
Yeah, telemetry. And now I need to ask you a question. This is actually something that I have already explained. How to support multi-tenant.
Multi-tenant.
How to support multi-tenant.
Routing instance.
Routing instance. Yes, you're right. Routing instance. So if I'm the PE router, okay, I connect to multiple customers, but these 2 customers using the same subnet. 10.1, 10.1. If they both sending me the route, I will eventually select the 1 in my routing table. But I don't want to do that. I want to separate them. So I can create 2 routing instances. So each of the customer will sending the route to me, and I will save it into the different table. And then I'm going to use MPBGP to send the route to another PE router. And that PE router will based on the route information and distribute the route to different customers. All right, so that is multi-tenant. But now I'm going to give you another information about the multi-tenant. What if I have a network? For example, I have a data center. This is a data center, for example, in San Jose. There is another data center, for example, in Singapore. Okay, these 2 data centers belonging to the same service provider. But the data center in here, you can imagine that they have the spine and the leaf. In Singapore, they have the spine and the leaf. And here is a rack. There is a rack. And this is an HP server. That is a Dell server. And you install the VM in here. That is the Windows. You install another VM. That is Linux. And both of the virtual machines belonging to the same customer. And this customer asks you to not only speed up these 2 virtual machines, but also make sure these 2 virtual machines are in the same subnet. In the same subnet. So, wow, that is a problem because from San Jose to Singapore, that will go through the other service provider, definitely. Okay, so how you send the traffic from here all the way to here and make sure they are in the same subnet. So if I try to make it more complex, then let me put another color. Here is another rack. There is another server running with another virtual machine. Now this is the green, right? Which means the green color represents to another customer. Another customer need the same scenario. Another customer want to forward the traffic to their virtual machine by using the same subnet. Now if I say, okay, for the green customer, they say they are running with the subnet VLAN 10. And then let me go back to the black. The black customer also running with the VLAN 10. Now the problem is in here, in this switch, if you're running only a single VLAN 10, these two customer traffic will eventually mix together.
Why both customers VLAN 10 is supposed to be different VLAN number?
Do a Q&Q tunnel.
No, not yet, not yet. So before I answer you the question is, the answer should be, you are the service provider. I'm providing you a way to forward your traffic. What is the VLAN? You configure, that is your business. That is not my business.
Okay.
All my purpose is to forward your traffic. So you can choose whatever VLAN you want. So the green customer has VLAN 10, and the black customer also has the VLAN 10. So they can choose whatever they want. However, from the service provider point of view, I have the spine. The spine is saying, oh, no, I need to distinguish these two VLAN from each other, right? So how do I do that? Be very careful. In this case, we are not able to use routing instance. We need to use the tunnel to separate both of them. So, which means we need to build up the tunnel probably from here to here. How many tunnels? One tunnel. One single tunnel. But the single tunnel internally will transmit the two VLAN, right? So you need to put a tag in each of the VLAN packet to identify this is a VLAN 10 from customer A, that is a VLAN 10 from customer B. So that tunnel, the only tunnel can do it like this is VXLAN.
Oh.
So that is why everybody talking about VXLAN. VXLAN solved the problem. So eventually, we say that VXLAN supporting multiple tenants or multi-tenants.
So the green customer will be VXLAN 10, for example, and the black customer will be VXLAN 11.
More precisely to say, let me draw in here. If you have a tunnel in here, you sending a VLAN 10, another VLAN 10. This traffic will be encapsulated with the VXLAN header. So here is VLAN 10, right? And in the VXLAN header, there is an ID, we call it VNI. The VNI probably 1000. So when the traffic reach out to the other side, okay, if I can see the VNI is 1000, then I'm going to send to customer A's VLAN 10. Now, if the customer B sending to here with the same VLAN 10, now I'm going to use another VNI, for example, 2000, and send to the other side. The other side will say, all right, if I can see the VNI is 2000, I'm going to mapping to customer B's VLAN 10. So precisely to say that is VXLAN is going to use the header. Inside of the header, there is an ID, we call it VNI. The VNI will be used to mapping to different customers, different VLAN.
But the VXLAN itself does it have like a number, like the VLAN?
Yes, the number is VNI.
So that's what I'm saying. The VXLAN number will be different.
Yes,
That's right.
that's right. Yes.
So you're building a tunnel for every customer that right? Or building one tunnel and then
One tunnel for every customer. But inside the tunnel, we use different VNI to identify this traffic came from which customer.
so if you're building one tunnel for
Yes.
every customer,
Yes.
so why are we
You don't need to. You put the tag, to differentiate between the customers. Why you build several tunnels?
It's like Q and Q tunnel, isn't it? You know, tagging, like it's somewhat similar.
Similar, that not exactly the same.
Yes.
Yeah, because when we talk about the Q and Q, there is no concept of the tunnel. Q and Q is not the tunnel concept.
Yeah, this is a tunnel.
Yeah, this is tunnel. So all this traffic will be encapsulated with the
VNI,
IP header.
which is a VNI.
IP header. And so you are struggling with how many tunnels should be built, right? If we have multiple tunnels. Now, if I have, for example, one spine here, and every customer traffic will always go to this spine, sending to the same tunnel. So what is same tunnel? Anyway, you encapsulate every packet with an IP header starting with the source address of this device, ending in another IP address for that spine device. So you have the same source, same destination. However, in the same source, same destination IP header, internally you have different VNI.
Yes.
So how many tunnels you have? One tunnel.
Should be one tunnel per spine. Yeah?
Yes.
So if you go like three, the spine, you have 3 tunnels for redundancy.
Yes. Yes. If you're talking about multiple spine, every spine want to build up the tunnel, then you have multiple tunnels. But you don't have to do that. You can do only one tunnel, one single tunnel. So how you define the tunnel? As long as the IP address source and the destination are the same, there's one tunnel.
Yeah, but the spine itself consists of devices, yeah?
The spine consists of one device in here.
And another device next to it, yeah?
Yeah, there is another device. If you want to build up another tunnel, you can do it.
I'm asking, it should be one tunnel per device in the spine. So if the spine has like 4 devices, it should be 4 tunnels. Is that correct?
Yes, you can do it, but the purpose of doing it is you would like to provide the redundancy.
Correct.
Yes.
So you don't have like the 4 spine over one tunnel. You can do that, but there's no redundancy here because if that the spine goes down, the tunnel will go down. Yeah.
Right. Correct. Absolutely. So I'm talking about the possibility. Okay. If you have only one device to build up the tunnel to the other device, you have a single tunnel. But just like we said, you can have multiple spine build up multiple tunnel for different purposes, redundancy, load sharing, load balancing. Yes. But a single tunnel can always send in multiple customer traffic. I will identify the customer traffic by using the VNI.
VNI.
So in here, I try to give you the concept. What is so we call multi-tenant? How we support multi-tenant? Let me summarize that again. We can support, yes.
so with the VX line, what's the header size? How many tunnels, maximum tunnels can you build?
How many tunnel can be built? Oh, okay, that's the good question. It depending on the VNI. Okay, before I answer your question, let me first ask you a question. When we talk about the VLAN, we know that the VLAN tag is from the protocol IEEE 802.1q, right?
Yeah.
How many VLAN can be built up?
6,000, 65,000 something.
What? 4,000 something,
Extended VLAN until
is it?
65.
VLANs, what?
65,000.
65,000.
No.
What's in a 4,000?
How many bits will be used to identify the VLAN ID? 12 bits.
12 bits, yeah, 1472.
So
So
that would be 4K,
Yeah, 4,096.
right? So,
Yeah.
but if you have, if you build up the VLAN from one of the customer, any single customer can use at maximum of 4K VLAN. But since you have multiple customers, sending the VLAN to a single tunnel, and you need to identify the customer VLAN from the other VLAN by using the VNI. There are 24 bits of the ID in the VNI.
16.7 million.
Yeah, so 16 million.
16.7.
Yeah, 16 point something, right? So 16 million, you're right. 16 millions of the ID can be used.
So that
that's
many
the answer.
tunnel, that many tunnel.
Come
That's
again?
insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of tunnels. Do you reckon we'll run out in
Tunnels,
one network?
That's VXLAN.
The VNIs, you're saying, that's how many VNIs?
No, that's the whole thing put together. The VLAN tag plus the VNI together.
No,
Yes.
VNI is that bit, isn't it? 16 million.
VNI is 12 bits.
Oh, 12 bit. Oh, yeah.
VNI is 24 bits.
Yeah, VNI is 24 bits.
And
VLAN's
the
12.
VLAN ID is 12 bits.
Oh,
So VLAN's 4096 is 12 bits, and VNI is 24 bits to 16.7 million. Right. That's insane.
Yes. So you see, so we have another term. Can we scale the network?
Yeah.
How? By using the VXLAN.
Yeah.
Can we support multiple tenancy? How? By using VXLAN.
Yeah.
All right?
we can differentiate between all these customers, but we cannot scale the network because it's all goes to the physical byte. So you can't, that's not scaling. So if you have a physical byte of 100 meg, for example, the byte between Singapore to whatever, you go only 100 meg. How are you scaling? You can increase the number of customers by
Yes.
only scaling the network.
Oh, okay. I'm saying that if you let the VLAN pass through without the tunnel, without the VXLAN tunnel. So in that case, VXLAN itself cannot go through the internet because it's layer 2. So eventually you have to build up the tunnel. But if you're using the GRE, there is no ID to identify VLAN from VLAN, right? So in a single GRE tunnel, you can have only 12 bits of VLAN ID. But if you change the tunnel to VXLAN, then you can have 24 bits of the VNI to identify the VLAN ID. So I'm talking about whether it's a small pipe of tunnel or big pipe of the tunnel. So in this case, we call it scale. But if you are right, but since there is only a tunnel over there, you need to eventually think about whether the hardware is supporting the bandwidth. So the bandwidth will be another issue, of course.
And this VNI number, does it dynamically change or once assigned to one customer, you keep it the same?
The VNI you can configure in two different ways. One of the way is manually configure. You just statically configure it. So that VNI belonging to this customer, that VNI support by that customer. And there's another way is, as long as you have a new customer coming up, connecting to your tunnel, then the VNI will automatically generate it and assigned to the customer. When the customer gone, the VNI will be received, will be retrieved. So that is dynamic. So based on how you configure. SDN and NFV overview. SDN we know, software-defined networking, and NFV network function virtualization. Okay, remember that. Which institute defined the NFV? ETSI. Which institute defined the SDN? Oh, nothing here.
Which institute? What sort of the SDN?
SDN.
They have this on the organization.
There is an organization called
I remember there's some foundation.
SDN
Okay.
organization.
You have to remember that will be in your question.
Yeah, I know.
Open Network Foundation.
Yeah.
ONF. Yeah,
Or
define
vectors.
SDN.
2004.
Ah, wow.
Yeah, that, I remember because you were talking about them with a little picture and stuff.
Yes.
I just forgot what it's called.
Okay, we centralized the controller. And actually, we are not only centralized the controller, but also centralized the management plane, right? So not only the control plane centralized, but also the management plane centralized. Present status of the SDN, we also mentioned about that we have 3 different flavors of SDN implementation. Open flow based SDN, SDN as an overlay, SDN as a via API. And Contrail is using the middle one, SDN as an overlay. So we have underlay, we have overlay, okay? So again, there are multiple tunnels can be the option to use in the overlay. That would be VXLAN, of course.
Yeah. MPLS over GRE.
MPLS over GRE.
And BGP over SSH.
No.
No?
No. We are talking about tunnel. You are right for the first one, but the next one will be the UDP over GRE. Okay, and then remember that we also mentioned about if this is an HP server. In Contrail, when you're doing the installation, a hypervisor and a virtual router will be installed. And after you install this part, this is not a normal server anymore, all right? This is not a normal server anymore. It is a server allowing you to spin up the virtual machine on top of the hypervisor, and also allowing you to build up the tunnel by using the vRouter to another device. So this virtual machine will be able to communicate to the other virtual machine. So from now on, this device in Contrail, we call it compute node. Okay, compute node. All right, and then based on what kind of the service you want to spin up, you can spin up any service you want, like we mentioned about stable firewall, NAT, intrusion detection, load balancing, WAN acceleration. And traditional network, if you have a customer, the customer has a CPE. But the CPE is a fixed device. The CPE providing the basic routing and probably the wireless and wired function. But nowadays, if you would like to use the SDN, you want to provide the service, which means to spin up the virtual machine, probably in the customer side. So we have a solution. We can replace the CPE by a device. We call it, which one? NFX. NFX. So when you replace this device as an NFX, NFX by itself has been already installed with the hypervisor, has already been installed with the virtual router. So you can also call that NFX is a compute node. But this compute node is not located in service provider's data center. Instead, it is in the customer side as a CPE. All right, and then we can spin up the service in the customer side. Or if the customer say, oh, no, I don't want to use the NFX, no worry. You can have a data center in the service provider itself. And you spin up the service over there. So you can reroute the customer traffic from customer side to your service and send the traffic to the internet, right? Remember that? So in that case, you will allocate the resource from your data center instead of install an NFX in the customer side. Right, so let me skip this. Vision of the NFV is to, in the future, everybody will try to use the virtualize as much as possible. Remember this?
Mano.
Yes, NFV management and the orchestration. So this part including our OpenStack and Contrail, right? Okay. All right, let me skip this. This we already covered that. Oh, okay. The term service chaining. Service chaining. I know you know, but you have to know how to say it, especially when you answer the question. You know, I just showing you the question, right? The question itself actually is easy, but you have to be very careful. Have to be very careful to identify which is the key word. Okay, what exactly the question is asking for. So when we talk about the service chain, you are insert a service to the existing network. So which means the existing tunnel will be broke and rebuild the tunnel to connect to the new service. So you chain the service to your existing network. So if I am the test, I ask you, which component allowing you to do the service chain in Contrail Cloud? In Contrail Cloud, which components allowing you to do the service chain?
The orchestration.
OpenStack.
OpenStack spin up the service, of course.
The project.
But the keyword is you have to block the network, reconnect the network. Who's going to do that? Contrail. All right? So Contrail helps OpenStack to do the service chain.
On the OpenStack gives the order to do the service chain.
Of course, yes.
So Contrail helps OpenStack to break the network and then
To rebuild the tunnel.
to rebuild the tunnel.
Yeah. In order to insert the service to your existing network.
This is called service chain. This is service chain.
Yeah, this service chain.
Yesterday, the firewall was a service chain, isn't it?
Everything can be a service.
Service chain.
Everything can be chained to your existing network.
But you didn't manually.
Oh, yeah, we added. Otherwise, Contrail can do that for us. We're using
So
OpenStack.
the key is who is going to help you with that. Right? My question was
NFV. I don't know.
Contrail.
Yeah. So all I need to do is I'll say Contrail, do this, and Contrail contact OpenStack, create a project. Orchestration goes to.
We will cover that later.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't move so fast. Okay, and then you see you have a VMA, you have a VMB. Now you want to insert the service in the middle. So who is going to do that? This. So this is SDN controller in our solution equal to Contrail. Right. I just mentioned about if the service need to have a service and the service chain is located in your data center, then from service provider's core, we need to first redirect the user traffic from the user side to your data center, passing through the service, and then redirect back to the core of your service provider and going to the internet. So in that case, this is part of our solution. We call it SD-WAN. SD-WAN is not a proprietary name for Juniper. Everybody talking about the SD-WAN. Everybody want to doing this, but use different way. Okay. So in here we are talking about in Juniper how we do the SD-WAN. SD-WAN, by the way, SD-WAN stands for what?
Software defined WAN.
Software defined WAN. Okay. In here, which part is software?
Which part? The VSRX is software.
Contrail Cloud is the
Contrail Cloud itself is the software, right? So Contrail Cloud itself is the software. Okay, Contrail solution, we have already noticed that. But now, remember that we have mentioned about we have a server. Normally is a bare metal server like HP. However, when we install the Contrail, one of the components of the Contrail will make this server installed with the hypervisor. And also come with a virtual router. All right, and then it's becoming a compute node. Now, I would like to tell you that the virtual router, don't be confused by the name. Even though the name in here is a virtual router, it can be a router, it can be a firewall, it can be a layer 2 bridge. Okay, so virtual router, just think of that is only a name. It can be anything, okay, depending on how you insert the table to the virtual router. For example, if you give it the routing table, it becomes a router. If you give it a MAC address table, it becomes a bridge. If you give it an ACL, it becomes a firewall. All right, so it's becoming any role depending on what kind of information you put into the virtual router. So who is going to put that information to the virtual router? Okay, from control controller. So control controller, think about what should I do? Okay, what table should I generate? And then after I generating the table, I will push down the table to the virtual router. So let me ask you one question. Virtual router in here, is that a control plane or forwarding plane? Yes. By itself, it is not thinking. It just received the table from control controller. Control controller is the control plane. This is the forwarding plane. Okay, so don't be confused by the name virtual router. Anybody think about, oh, it's a router, so itself should be a control plane? No. There is no control plane over there. Okay, because by itself, not generating the table. All right. So when we talk about Contrail, there is a compute node. We have a virtual router in here. We know that is forwarding plane. And Contrail itself is the control plane. So we have a protocol to distribute that information. Come again? Can anyone tell me what is the protocol?
This is the from Contrail, so northbound protocol, southbound protocol.
Yes. So what's
which
the name?
which is netconf over.
This is compute node. This is not MX router.
Oh yeah. So southbound protocol, which is
XMPP.
Almost there. Almost there.
XMPP is for HP.
Squeeze.
MCCP.
M. There's an M.
MPBGP.
X.
MX left.
No. X and
PB.
P.
He told.
Yes.
Rahul told.
Yes. Okay. XMPP is the southbound protocol. It's a standard, right? But if I'm the administrator, if I go to the GUI interface of the Contrail, can you configure your network? Of course. You can tell the Contrail, say, hey, Contrail, I would like to build up the tunnel. Okay? But Contrail is the controller. It will based on your configuration to build up the tunnel. However, what if you want to build up thousands of the tunnel? You want to connect all these tunnels to different tenants with different virtual machines. So you would like to do the mass deployment. You don't want to use the GUI. You want to use the API, right? So there is another guy. we, on top of it, called it OpenStack. So instead of in here, you can coming from here by using the GUI or using the API. And then it will tell the controller how to do it. So in this case, combining this and the control all together, we are doing orchestrator. More precisely, somebody say this is the orchestrator, all right? This is the brain of the brain, okay? And control itself is the controller. So other than the OpenStack, what other orchestrator do we have? We can have the VMware vCenter in here. We can have the Kubernetes. Remember, we just had the question, right? Kubernetes is another one in here. That is another solution. And OpenShift is another solution. So did you select the Kubernetes in the question?
No, we didn't.
You did.
No, we didn't.
No, I did, because
You
I
did.
didn't know what it was. I knew what the other ones were.
So do you remember? Do you still remember what was the question?
Yeah,
Cloud, something with cloud.
The whole course is cloud.
Yeah. What component consists the cloud?
yeah, to the cloud. So it wasn't Ubuntu, and it wasn't.
You didn't select the VirtualBox.
No, not
Right?
VirtualBoxes.
VirtualBox is not part of the cloud. VirtualBox is itself is only to build up one virtual machine. It's not an orchestrator.
I think which of these three are part of the cloud architecture?
Yes. Right. The cloud architecture consists of cloud architecture. So yes, we need to select. What was the three answer? vSphere, OpenStack,
OpenStack and Kubernetes.
Kubernetes. Yes. We have already seen this before, right? So let me skip. Okay. One of the three flavor of implementation is open control, which means you don't have to pay to Juniper. That is what most of the people in the world do. Okay. They say, hey, I don't want to pay, but I want to experience how to build up the cloud infrastructure. So they just go to a forum to download the source code installed in their own Linux operating system and build up or simulate the tunnel in the lab. So yes, you can do that. If you would like to download the software, here is the web. Okay, www.opencontrail.org. You can download the control source code from there. And then, if you, let me step it back. If you download the Contrail source code from OpenContrail, then you can install the control in a server. The server itself is a Linux. It can be CentOS. It can be Red Hat. It can be the other operating system. On top of it, you install the control. Now, the control will have to push down the information by using the XMPP, right? So, which means you need to have another server running with the hypervisor, running with the virtual router. Now, in here, we do have multiple options. One of the options is if you are running on top of the Linux. So the hypervisor, we call it KVM. Okay? Or, do you have other choice? Yes. If you're using VMware, so that will be the ESXi. Yes?
Does KVM stand for keyboard, video, mouse? What does KVM stand for?
Kentucky,
We got KVM.
Kerberos.
V is virtual, M is maybe moving.
Yeah, Google it, please. I'm sorry. And please tell me the answer.
Kernel-based virtual machine.
Kernel-based virtual machine. So which means the KVM use Linux kernel to provide the environment, so you can spin up the virtual machine on top of it.
It's not that old.
And the second flavor is Contrail networking. Now, if you purchase the Contrail from Juniper,
You have support.
and you got the support, you got the ZTEC support.
How much is it?
Depends.
It depends. Yes.
Compare between that and VMware.
I would say probably a lot expensive.
A lot.
Yes. Yeah, because KVM is in a big scale.
Yeah.
You know, we're focusing on you are going to install the computer node in hundreds or even thousands of computer nodes over there. So that network will be very complex.
But why do I go to Juniper and pay money if I can?
Use Open Contrail.
You can use the open one.
No. For example, Open Daylight. Open Daylight.
Yeah. Okay. Now,
Open Great Light, Open Contrail.
let's say you are owning the service provider network infrastructure. Are you going to use all the infrastructure by using Juniper? No. Probably over there, some of the device from Cisco, from Ericsson, from Huawei, from anywhere, all right?
No Huawei.
Not even. Okay. That's good.
They banned it, yeah.
Okay.
They came.
Not in Telstra.
Oh, Telstra. If you want to get a job in Voxel, you have to know about what.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So my point is, if you purchase Juniper Contrail and you would like to integrate with the other vendor, we support it. And believe me, that will be very complex. And because different platform has different language, and sometimes the integration will be very difficult. You have to go down to the very deep of the software coding. Yeah, so that's why. And the third solution is Contrail Cloud. You purchase everything from Juniper, including the OpenStack. And again, support all the components. What are the components? Contrail networking, which means the Contrail itself. Red Hat OpenStack, Red Hat Cert, and another one is the company we recently acquired, Performance. Yeah, it helps us to telemetry, to monitor very deep information from your cloud. Right? Control solution, okay, you can have all the service. The service can be anything. Right, so just stop it. This is the first, actually the second chapter of the NACC, because most of the information we have already gone through, so I just go through it quickly. But I use the time to have a reference, have a refresh. So you now must be very refreshed about all these terms. Keep in mind, those terms will be used when you're doing the lab. When you do the lab, if you forget about the terms, then you will get big trouble. Because you are not knowing what you are doing. Okay? I'm controlling this. So what is this? Why should I do this? Okay? So the term is important. Okay, great. How about let's take a break? Thanks. 2 seconds, right?
And then do it again. Do it again. I bet it comes on.
Do it again.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. Oh, no, I will. So that's the booster. With the facilities, right? This, right. Because this time the sun's strange.
Can we sign for today and yesterday?
No, but this, they've given you a chance for proper management for system.